Hello everyone, today I wanted to share this video that I received as one of the targeted ads on YouTube. There's a lot of good things to talk about, great conversation, a lot of topics that we can delve into. So I hope that everyone can learn something today. It comes from taxfoundation.org, which is a right-leaning think tank almost that deals with tax research and education, I suppose, if they could call it this. Seems more like propaganda to me. And the title is Who Bears the Burden of the Corporate Income Tax? So let's just jump right into it.
Raising the corporate income tax is often promoted as a way to generate revenue for helpful government services. Unfortunately, higher corporate taxes typically hurt the very people they're supposed to help, because they lead to lost wages and fewer opportunities for many workers.
Okay. All right. Already, I disagree with the premise here that raising the corporate income tax leads to lost wages and fewer opportunities. Never have I ever heard of any company saying, "Hey, they raise the corporate income tax. I guess I'm going to cut everyone's pay by 5%." Because guess what's going to happen? They're going to go somewhere else that won't cut their pay. Or let's explore the opposite of that. I've never heard of any company say, hey, we're going to raise everyone's pay by 12% this year because our corporate income tax was cut. So let's see what they use to try to justify this claim.
Consider this hypothetical example. Imagine a
Okay.
business in the early 2000s considering moving part of their workforce from desktop computers to laptops. This is a major investment, but the company weights the cost against the anticipated return and believes it will be profitable in the long run.
Okay. All this is normal so far. But I'm gonna preemptively object to this premise as well because I don't see how any type of corporate investment in equipment or capital improvements or anything related to that is affected by corporate income taxes in any way remotely. They're put simply, it is not. All of these projects are on a pre-tax basis. You get to deduct the expenses over time through depreciation, which lowers your tax bill actually. So regardless of what your tax bill is, any this project, this hypothetical of switching over the computers to laptops would not be affected by taxes. Let's see if they address that.
Investment pays off in multiple ways. Field engineers who used pen and paper and then had to re-enter data and reports on desktops back in the office were instantly more productive. Other workers gained the freedom to work from home. This boosted performance and increased job satisfaction. The company could also now hire remote workers in other cities and attract more talent. All of these gains led to greater efficiency, product breakthroughs, and higher revenue, which
All
in
good
turn
things.
enabled the company to increase wages through raises, bonuses, and promotions, and to create new jobs.
For whom? For whom? Who's getting the raises, the bonuses, the promotions? I would argue that when there is increased efficiency, and we could look at the data a little bit later, that doesn't translate to higher raises, bonuses, or promotions to the entry level workers. It does to the executives, which is why we've seen the gap between CEO and median income for the company grow wider over time, especially as corporate income taxes were cut. Um, but yeah, I have to absolutely disagree that it would obviously the project would create higher efficiencies for the company. I'm just not sure that they're presenting this honestly because the raises, bonuses, the promotions, they will go to the executives.
Now, imagine the corporate income tax is raised and
There
the
we go.
investment is no longer viable for the company because
Wrong. This is incorrect. Okay, this little cute little weight that they added to make it seem like a company would not go through with the increased efficiency and all the wonderful glamorous things that they just tried to sell us a minute ago because the government decided to raise corporate taxes is absolutely incorrect. Companies still have an incentive to increase their efficiency regardless of how many taxes they pay. And I know I already covered it, but absolutely unrelated. The corporate income tax is should not even this should not even be on this scale. This is absolutely comes way after during the tax season. But no, the cost of corporate income taxes is not added to a project. If anything, raising corporate income taxes only promotes these types of projects more because they get to deduct these costs through depreciation. So you would save more money theoretically by being able to deduct off of a higher tax bracket than you would if the taxes are lower. So it would only encourage having higher corporate income taxes only encourages corporations to pursue these types of projects as they seek to lower their liability bill, their tax liability, which they always will.
Costs outweigh the benefits. All of the productivity and innovation gains then go
Here's a
unrealized,
fear
and
mongering.
workers lose out on those increased wages and opportunities. This same story would
Executives, remember, not workers, executives will lose out on these wonderful efficiency gains.
play out in different ways for all types of companies and workers throughout the economy. This is the problem with raising the corporate income tax. Workers may benefit from the government services they provide, but they
Okay.
also experience real economic harm. And studies show that higher corporate taxes reduce wages most for young workers, low skilled, and women.
And executives, do not forget that. Actually, I reject this premise as well. Again, I've never heard of any company saying, hey, we're going to have to cut entry level wages because our corporate income tax went up. No, the executives are the ones that lose out the most, as it's just as the executives are the ones that gain the most from cutting corporate income taxes. Reject this premise as well.
Many in these groups already face significant barriers to working, like limited transportation or high childcare costs, which, when coupled with lower wages, can make it unaffordable to work at all.
Or you could just pay workers more. Neat thought.
Many economists agree that the corporate income tax is one of the most harmful and least efficient ways to fund our priorities.
Okay, this is the problem that I have with these types of videos. You know what? Let's just keep it.
Taxes are necessary for government services. They shouldn't come at the cost of lower wages and lost opportunities for the people the services are supposed to help.
Okay, now I can say it. This is the biggest problem that I have with videos like these. They propose a problem and not the solution. It is nothing but fear mongering, essentially, because they're not going to tell you that, hey, corporate income taxes are a bad and inefficient way to pay for these government programs that the government loves to do and that people benefit from. So let's pay for these programs by doing a wealth tax or something. No, they just argue against the corporate income tax and present no positive alternative, no policy solution, nothing. It's really just a fear mongering corporate propaganda video to influence the public perception of corporate income taxes and sway the vote so that at the end of the day the benefits are accrued by the corporations and their executives and I guess their shareholders, most of which are in the upper tax brackets anyways. So this is the biggest problem that I have. If they were to say, hey, this is inefficient, let's do a wealth tax, I would 100% be for that. Let's do a wealth tax. But they're not going to do that. In fact, video is over. So let's dive into this. Here's their website, taxfoundation.org. If you go to the financial sections under About Us, you can open the 2020 annual report. And as you'll see here, financials are in 18. So we just scroll down there. Actually, this is a slide I want to cover. 15. It shows their spending by type and their support by type. So guess how their support looks like? 44% funded by foundations, quote unquote. 40% funded by corporations. Only 16% by individuals. And I'm willing to bet that most of these individuals are high income individuals that are also, participating in corporations by being owners or executives, just not donating as part of that corporation. I don't really see how working class people are going to be donating to taxfoundation.org. happy to be proven wrong, but that's just a hunch. And let's see how they spend their money. As you can see, more than a quarter goes to federal tax policy, quote unquote, and another big chunk to state tax policy. And last year, they received almost $6 million from these corporations and small amount of individuals. So I wanted to dive a little deeper as to who they tell us themselves. These are the people that are founding them, but I want to see who is funding them. So here is a page by sourcewatch.org. It says that the Tax Foundation is a nonprofit tax think tank founded in 1937. Okay, here's some of the founding members: General Motors chairman, General Motors financial vice president, Standard Oil Company president, and the president. So these executives, high level executives, are the ones that founded this foundation. So let's guess what their interests are, right? And if you scroll down a little bit more, their funding tells you comes from members, corporate donations, and charitable foundations. They told us that themselves, but it tells us some of them, such as the Koch Foundation. Let's open that up. What is the Koch Foundation? Well, it consists of the Koch family, which is one of the richest privately held. Oh, here we go. Charles and David Koch from Koch Industries, one of the richest privately held corporations in the world. They are two of the 20 wealthiest people in the world. They are funding this Koch Foundation, which is in turn funding this tax foundation. And here's Earhart Foundation. They are a prominent source of ideas for the Reagan administration. Reaganomics. Are you surprised? Here we go. It looks like some of the money comes from more foundations, and the rest of it donated from major corporations, including Bethlehem Steel, Exxon, JCPenney, and Chase Manhattan Bank. So corporations fund these foundations, which in turn fund this taxfoundation.org. So this 44% from foundations is really just corporations masking as foundations. So 84% of their funding comes from corporations. What kind of tax propaganda do you think they're going to put out? That we should do wealth taxes on these individuals that own these corporations? No, they're not. They're going to tell you that raising taxes is bad because their funders, where the people that they receive funding from, are the ones that would be affected. And just to prove a point that I was trying to make earlier, this is from the Tax Foundation article that they themselves put out. It says federal government receipts by source. So you can see in the early 30s, about 12% came from corporate income taxes. That's slowly increased up to a peak of about 40%. And it was in the 20 range until the 1980s. I guess it started decreasing slightly before then, but you see that really big dip in the 80s when President Reagan. And just to confirm, 81 to 89. So let's see, look at those dates. So from 81 to 89, we see we hit the single digits and never really recovered too much from that. Highest we hit was 2006 when corporations making a huge amount of money before the crash. And here are their estimates. This is an old article. Like here are their estimates for what the distribution was going to look like in the subsequent years. And they thought that in 2018, 11% of our tax revenue was going to come from corporations. Well, here's an article that they themselves put out 2021 this year that tells you the source of tax revenue in 2019. So a year after their estimates of 11.3%, we see that corporate taxes only pay for 3.9%. That's actually the lowest number in the entire history of this chart. We have never hit 3.9%. This comes from the White House, by the way, so I'm going to trust the data, not necessarily the publisher here, but I'll trust the hard data. Only 3.9% of our taxes are paid by corporations, and they say that raising it is bad. I'm sure if they had it their way, they would cut it even more than 3.9%. Next argument is going to be, well, it's only 3.9%, so what does it matter if we just cut corporate taxes in general? Well, here's the problem. We have huge deficits. And when we were relying on a pretty healthy chunk of our tax revenue to be paid by corporations that hasn't been paid in, for the past 30 years, we're missing out on key revenue that could decrease the debt burden that we have right now, or could even fund more social policies instead of just continuing to enrich the wealthy in this country. And plain and simple, just corporations are not paying their fair share. Even by their own estimates, corporations were supposed to pay 10%, which is very low historically, regardless. And we're down to 3.7. So what do you think about that? Well, I guess that was it. Just wanted to share my thoughts on this video, maybe rant a little bit, and I hope that everyone could have learned something new from this. These are the kind of ads that are popping up on YouTube everywhere, and I'm sure a lot of people fall for them. So just trying to do my part in spreading some information and getting people to think the really hard questions, like where is this information that I'm receiving that's being forced onto my screen coming from? So I'll see you on next video.